Hi everyone, I'm your host Donna, and this is Modern Mongolia podcast. Here I talk about how people experience life in Mongolia and the contemporary lifestyle and culture of Mongolians. On every episode, I will be sharing fun facts about Mongolia, and at the end of the podcast, I will spare some minutes for musical pieces from Mongolian artists. So let's get started. Fun fact time, or just a fact. So let's start with the basics. Mongolia is a huge country with very few people. There are around 21 provinces and the capital city Ulaanbaatar. Half of the Mongolian population, which is around 1.6 million people, live in Ulaanbaatar. The name Ulaanbaatar means Red Hero, given in 1924 with the influence of socialist regime. And that's it for today. And by the way, I will be using UB to refer to Ulaanbaatar further on. Today we will talk about how Mongolians celebrate New Year's. First of all, let's get it straight that we don't celebrate Christmas. Because our official religion is Buddhism, not Christianity, so we don't celebrate Christmas nor have Christmas holidays. But of course there are Christian communities and they're celebrating Christmas, but it's not a national thing. However, the New Year's is quite a big celebration in Mongolia. Not only the New Year's Eve, but the New Year's is a separate celebration that is held during the whole month of December. Generally, New Year's is more of work and community celebration rather than family celebration. So current culture of New Year partying among all types of groups and communities is kind of legacy of socialist Mongolia. I believe that average Mongolian person will have at least 2 to 3 New Year's parties throughout December. For example, you'll have work, friends, fitness club, or certain Facebook group New Year parties. And those are not just the basic parties, they are very elegant and grandeur. And also you will be paying 20 to 100 USD for the entry tax. And you have to put on glamorous makeup, black tie suits, and look your best. So actually many Mongolians who are living abroad say that they had been to Christmas parties, which are equivalent of our New Year celebration here. And they had been quite amazed how simple it was and how people didn't dress up. Like they just showed up wearing jeans and t-shirt. So on this episode, I will talk about the must-knows of Mongolian New Year's celebration. Celebrating New Year has been our culture since 1924. And I believe Mongolians were not celebrating New Year's before that. And this concept of celebrating New Year's has an unofficial name that is Yolka. It is a Russian word for Christmas tree, and Yolktokh, which is a Mongolian verb of Yolka, means to celebrate New Year's. So here in Mongolia we say Yolktokh to say celebrate New Year's. Back to the history, author Batbayr, as known as Babur, wrote that, quote-unquote, though Mongolians rejected socialism 32 years ago, we kept the celebration of Yolka. And I totally agree with that because it is the celebration of reaching the milestone of socialist planning and rewards the best worker and points out who is not. Adoption of New Year celebration from Soviet Russia was obviously not religious, but it was certainly politically painted to praise the working class and their performance and achievement. So this has persisted until today, and that every organization now awards the best employees, best students, best of best, etc. The one who brings the change of years is the Father Frost. We have Mongolian version of Russian Father Frost and Snow Maiden. Father Frost is called Uvling Ovngao, and he wears white traditional death costume and blue cape. I think maybe only the traditional Del signifies that it's a Mongolian Father Frost. And of course, there's a Santa at some parties, but people prefer the Mongolian Santa, the Father Frost. And as well as many other countries, this figure persists in a couple of different forms. And of course, kids love him. The next must-know tradition of celebrating New Year's in Mongolia is that we put money on the Christmas tree. So I think this is the most Mongolian thing or Mongolian tradition of celebrating New Year's. For example, my mom is like, oh, I need to gift money for our neighbor's kids' Christmas tree. And to be honest, I really don't know who invented this tradition or how it all started and why. I think it's maybe it's connected to the Mongolian culture of milach. So there is a culture of milach, which is an act of congratulation on someone's new possession, like housewarming, or we also give gifts or like give money if someone gets a new car, etc. So this concept is a form of gift giving along with the blessing and felicitation. So I think it equals, like putting the money on the Christmas tree equals with milach. And personally, I also have a very nice memory of collecting all these turuk bills of our Christmas tree with my sister and divide all the money by half and still got a pretty good amount of money. And it was such a nice time of the year, thanks to those who put money on our Christmas tree back then. So for your information, if you visit a family during the New Year's in December in Mongolia, and if there is a Christmas tree, and especially the family has young folks, you should put money on the tree. And now let's talk about the New Year celebration must-know food. And the main pillars are nisl salad, which means capital salad, chicken with ananas, and New Year's cake. So first, nisl salad is all-time favorite of Mongolians, and it can never go wrong with nisl salad on any holidays, I think. And in essence, it's a potato salad. Main ingredients are potato, egg, pickle, carrot, mayonnaise, and optionally beef or ham. So it's also the legacy of Russian culture. And I think the name capital salad is self-explanatory because back in those days of socialist Mongolia, these fancy ingredients are very hard and very rare to find. So you can only try this salad in fancy restaurant, or you can only find the ingredients in capital city. So that's why. Moving on to the chicken with ananas. So the story is, a few years ago, it was like an unwritten law of New Year's party to serve chicken with ananas. And it went for years. I believe it was like a trend at that time. And maybe people thought it was the most convenient dish, and it almost got solidified as a New Year's essential dish. But now there's more options rather than only chicken with ananas. So on the New Year's Eve, however, for a family dinner, we see various dishes today. Yet I think the most common are grilled chicken, pizza, and but now the chicken with ananas is more like an old joke about New Year's celebration. This is more like a disappearing tradition, but you will still see the persistent discourse on chicken with ananas, and you will see people posting jokes about it. So this is a must-know dish. But you should know that there's no solid tradition of like we only eat this or that during the New Year's party. However, the New Year cake is a must. And in recent years, there has been a phenomenon of disastrous queuing for cakes outside of bakeries on New Year's Eve. And because it's definitely one of the essentials of the New Year's table. And for example, people are getting up at 6 in the morning and they go to the bakery and stand in the queue for the cake, and it's crazy. And because of this phenomenon, people are actually raising the question that is it like really our own tradition, and like do we have to eat cake on New Year's Eve or New Year's party? But for me, I think the cake is a must, and we can go on without misal salad or any other dinner. But like for the New Year's Eve, it's the champagne and the cake. And as I remember on those like nostalgic photos of the 90s Mongolia, on the table, like the basic table for the New Year's is the bottle of champagne and the cake. So these two are a must. So cake is a must in terms of the food. So these are the must-knows, or let's say traditions of New Year's celebration in Mongolia. New Year's celebration is definitely not an authentic tradition of Mongolia, as well as other non-Christian countries. However, it was introduced by Russians in early 20th century, and collectively we have this nostalgic sentiment of Soviet atmosphere towards the New Year's celebration, and the tradition of communal celebration has also been shaped by socialist ideology. So currently, with the addition of modern consumerism and Western influence by media, contemporary form of Mongolian New Year celebration is kind of a blend of Christmas and year-end party, and definitely also has its own unique particularity of Mongolian modern culture. That's it for today, and thank you so much for staying with me and listening to this episode, because this is the comeback episode of Modern Mongolia after almost 2 years of pause, and I'm very happy to be back. And I decided to do more shorter episodes with new format, because that way I can produce more episodes consistently. So now this is my favorite part of the podcast, that I will be sharing music from Mongolian artists, because music is also one of my passion, and also definitely music is a great way to get into know the new culture that you're interested in. So I hope you will like it also. This time I'm going to introduce Bodhu, Bodikhu, and Bodhu is one of the underground hip-hop beat makers of Mongolia. He produces music in genre of soul funk and bossa nova style beats. So his music is very soulful, and really it has a really nice groove into it. And he takes a sample from Brazilian jazz and also 90s Mongolian music. And tracks have really nice soulful feeling. So here is the sample of Bodhu's track from 2012 with the title of Meaning of Love. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and if you'd like to keep up with Mongolia, make sure you subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and everywhere else. Хамт байсанд маш их баярлалаа. Баяртай.